Hello, everypony. It's Fluttershy169 here, bringing to you The Price You Pay by an author named Valkyra. At least I believe that is their name. I could be very wrong because I have no idea how to pronounce it. Anyway, let's hope that this is a good story. I've read it about a third of the way through, and so far, so good. So, let's start, please, and please be sure to comment below telling me what you thought. And please keep in mind that this is my first reading, so be kind to me. So let's get started. The day was ending, as so many others had before. The evening was slower now, as though Celestia wanted to draw out the day for as long as she could. Perhaps to give her younger sister a rest. Everypony knew what a taxing job it was to compromise with the Griffin tribes that lay just beyond the borders. Of course, the Pegasus mare didn't mind these longer days. It gave her more time to spend with those who remained, if only to say goodbye. It had been so many years now. The mare was no longer the spry pony that she used to be in her youth. She had traded strength and wisdom for wisdom, and even now wondered at the strangeness. How odd to be young and stupid, but old and wise. How silly and backwards it was. If only she knew half the things then as she did now, she wouldn't have done them. The mare chuckled. Fighting dragons, battling chaos, ending everlasting night. Perhaps those things were necessary. Necessary to save Equestria, and necessary to forge a friendship stronger than steel. She smiled sadly. A friendship strong enough to last till the end, even. The Pegasus adjusted her wings and leaned back against the headstone, shivering at the chill of the rock. Above her, trendles of darkness had crept across the sky, dwindling the day until all that remained was twilight. The mare smiled. Twilight. She still missed her, even after all these years. The unicorn had been a cherished friend, even more so after the second return of Discord. Twilight had brought and kept them all together, and that was why it had been such a shock when she had been the first to go. The mare would always remember the day, how they'd been so distraught, the way the sun had shone fierce and hot at the funeral, the sorrow in Princess Celestia's voice when she explained that the death was a result of Twilight's powerful magic, which gained its strength from the unicorn's life force. Eventually, the strain was too much, and it finally snapped. Celestia had assured them that Twilight had not suffered. She had gone peacefully in her sleep. It hadn't helped much, not then, but now the Pegasus mare could appreciate the reassurance. She had seen so many come and go, and sometimes in the most unpleasant ways. Drowning, heart attack, mauling. The mare had seen them all. The sudden absence of Twilight only seemed to drive the friends closer. Well, not everyone, now that the mare thought about it. Spike had never been able to recover. His heart was broken by the death of his greatest friend, and Celestia had granted him the gift of a millennia of sleep. When he awoke, he would be grown, and he would remember little of his childhood. The remaining elements had been weary of the idea, but Spike had accepted it gratefully. At first, the mare had been offended. Now she understood. Spirits could be shattered beyond repair, and Spike had been one of those. But the loss of both Twilight and Spike had jarred them into reality. Life was precious and short. Applejack took the lesson to heart the most, and had made a valiant effort of dividing her time between her friends and the farm. It had worked wonders for the Earth Pony, and the Pegasus had seen her friend learn to laugh at the small things in life, like never before. It was every pony's greatest surprise that Pinkie Pie had gone next. One day she was there, and the next she was not. It was a hard thing to bear, finding her cold and lifeless on the floor. The mare had thought it as a spiteful joke, that some pony so full of life would suddenly be so still, so faded, like a flickering candle blown out by the wind. Or at least that's how Rarity had described it at the funeral. She'd always had a way with words. The Pegasus had just stood there and closed her eyes against the tears. When it was her turn to speak, she could only choke out a few unintelligible sounds before she turned away. Applejack understood. Rarity did not. The white unicorn had refused to speak with her for weeks on end. The littlest thing seemed to set her off, and she would storm into her boutique and slam the door in the face of any pony unlucky enough to happen to be standing there. It was so unlike Rarity that the Pegasus mare had been shocked, startled, and even disgusted. "Element of generosity, my hoof!" the Pegasus had spat to Applejack one day, pacing back and forth like a mad mare. She's refused to speak my name for the past week, and now she's denying me the chance to talk to her? Some generosity. Applejack had sat through this calmly, and when she spoke, her voice was gentle. "Settle down there, Sugar Cube. I know Rarity's got your feathers twisted, but you need to understand. She ain't in her right mind. First Twilight, now Pinky." The orange earth pony shook her head. "We're just dying off too young for her to handle. No pony could have ever expected this." The mare had stopped pacing, and stood, trembling. "I know," she said miserably. "That's why I'm mad." Applejack just had leaned against her friend's side, and the two shared a small moment of comfort. The spat with Rarity had ended, of course. It was only a month before Rarity apologized and broke down sobbing halfway through. The Pegasus mare had held her through it all, and by the end both of them were soaked in each other's tears. But they were happy. The old mare yawned now, resting her head on her hooves as she watched the sun sink slowly, finally disappearing beneath the horizon. The twilight went with it, replacing it with a heavy dusk. The chill crept closer, but the mare pressed herself further into the dirt beneath her and let the memories wash over her again. They had lived for so many years after that, the four friends held fast to the earth by their friendship. They had stood together and watched sorrowfully as the rest of their fillyhood friends slipped away. Some went peacefully, some did not. It was a cruel twist of fate that Rarity, the elegant one, the grand one, the pony with no limits, was the next to leave. Crueler still was the way that she had been taken from them. She'd only meant to gather more jewels. It was a regular task, made monotone by the many years she'd done it. No pony had thought something would go wrong, until they realized that Rarity hadn't returned. A day passed, then two, and finally the remaining elements could stand it no more. They raced out to find her, and find her they did. She was gone, that was for sure. There was no question about it. The Pegasus mare had collapsed when she saw the state of her deathly silent friend. The unicorn's coat, always so lovingly brushed and pure, was sullied with dirt. Her legs curled around her chest as if to brace for the pain, and the look of shock in her face made the Pegasus keen with grief. They learned later that the unicorn's heart had simply failed, and it was there that Applejack took some comfort. "See," she had said. "She didn't suffer. It was quick and maybe mostly painless. She didn't suffer." It was not enough for the Pegasus mare. not enough to know that after all these years, it had not been a peaceful sleep that took her friend away, but a terror-filled second. It was terrible to her that the pony, so loving, so willing to help others, had died alone in the dirt. The funeral was grand, if not grander than Pinky's or even Twilight's. Rarity was renowned for her generosity and beautiful clothing, and ponies from all over Equestria attended. It eased the mayor's mind somewhat to see so many would mourn the unicorn with her. This time she was able to speak. She told of how she and Rarity had never quite seen eye to eye. She spoke of how she and Rarity had learned to rely upon each other, how they wept together when their friends left the world, how they discovered that with grief came fond remembrance, and time healed all wounds. But it would take a very long time for a particular wound to heal, and the Pegasus mare knew that. She'd thrown herself into her work, went days without sleep, refused to eat hours on end, and then Applejack caught wind of it.